trying to think of another example of this. AI is getting more and more everywhere in our society, isn't it? And people keep talking about it. I even got a text message this week from AI. I got a text message from Google Gemini inviting me to have a chat. This is really weird. It's one thing to look up Chat GPT on the internet or something, isn't it? But it's very strange to get a text from a bot. Some people probably hope that AI would do a better job of running our world than we would. But I think that pretty much everyone would agree that it would be pretty outrageous if AI actually started telling us what to do, if it tried to take over the world. After all, AI is created by human beings, isn't it, ultimately? It may seem more intelligent than us, but actually it's created by us. And in the same way, that same principle applies to the way that we think about God, doesn't it? We must beware of thinking that we know better than him as our creator. We must beware of shifting blame onto him for the evil in the world. The second thing that Paul goes on to say, and again we started looking at this last week, is that God has every right to have mercy on some people and to give others over to their evil. And we see that in verse 21. Does not the potter have the right to make out of the same lump of clay some pottery for special purposes and some for common use? I don't know if you've ever watched the Great Pottery Throwdown. I think it's on ITV. Catch up. Lizzie introduced me to it. I don't think it's on at the moment, but you can catch up the series. People, if you haven't watched it, people compete to make these amazing things out of pottery. And for me, as someone who knows absolutely nothing about it, it's been a complete revelation as to how amazing and intricate the skill of pottery can be. Particularly porcelain, apparently. It's incredibly difficult to work with, a bit like butter. It sort of can just sort of melt in your hands. Very difficult to make anything out of. It probably explains why it's so expensive to buy in the shops. But even out of quite common or garden clay, you can make some pretty amazing looking articles. And in Paul's day, clay was also used to make everyday jars. So they didn't have plastic bottles like the thing that we have sunflower oil in, or squash, or whatever else we put in plastic bottles. They would have kept those kind of things in clay pots. So the potters in those days would have used the clay, not just for the amazing kind of stuff that you see on the Pottery Throwdown, but for that very common or garden plastic bottle to keep your common thing in. And that's the illustration here, isn't it? Just as in the same way the Roman potters got exactly the right to use their clay to make some cheaper looking vessels to store oil in or something like that, as they have to make something very fine. So God has got every right to take sinful humanity and to take some of sinful humanity and change them to save them, to make them his children, to turn them from something ugly and appalling into something beautiful, to take them from their state of rebellion against him and their evil from him into being in the most closest relationship with him that you could possibly imagine, as he molds and shapes the events of their lives. He's got the right to do that with some, and he's got the right with others to leave them in their state of rebellion against him, confirming them even in their choice not to follow him, not to live his way, to live lives of evil.